Imagine a world where the secrets of the night, maybe hidden messages and shadows, even like the subtle intentions of others, what if they were just laid bare right before your very eyes? What if the world you think you see right now is only, well, a tiny fraction of what's truly out there? And what if just maybe someone or maybe something already can see more? There's chatter, whispers online about these fantastical concepts like infrared contact lenses, stuff that supposedly lets you see in the dark, even with your eyes closed. Sounds like something ripped straight out of a sci-fi thriller, right? But what if it's not just fantasy? Welcome to the cool, weird, and possible. Today we're diving deep into this really fascinating question. Is human infrared vision just, I don't know, a figment of our imagination or maybe a hidden ability just waiting to be unlocked? We're going to explore the cutting-edge science, some surprising discoveries, and maybe the mind-bending possibilities of seeing beyond our normal human limits, specifically into the infrared spectrum.
That's exactly right. Our deep dive today is all about that thrilling intersection of human biology and, well, advanced material science. We'll unpack how abilities that might seem purely fantastical, sci-fi stuff could actually be rooted in some truly astonishing scientific breakthroughs. We're pulling insights from, well, some of those really key sources. There's groundbreaking research on human infrared perception, actually published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Pretty major stuff. And we're also looking at the very latest advancements in two-dimensional material science, which is totally redefining what's possible in sensory tech. So, okay, let's maybe set the stage first. Understanding what our eyes currently do, our vision is incredible, obviously lets us navigate, communicate, appreciate the world. But it's really crucial to remember we only perceive visible light, that spectrum, violet to red, just a minuscule sliver of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. It's kind of like listening to only one single note in a whole symphony.
And evolution-wise, are we even meant to see more? Or have our eyes just kind of plateaued? Because I've heard people argue our eyesight isn't really getting better anymore, naturally, which feels, well, a bit disappointing, doesn't it?
It's an interesting point, yeah. Our sources do highlight this intriguing evolutionary perspective. While natural selection usually favors traits that help survival and reproduction, that pressure for naturally better eyesight, it might have lessened quite a bit for humans. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Centuries ago, poor vision, that could be a serious disadvantage. Finding food, spotting danger.
Right.
But today, we've got corrective lenses, laser eye surgery, even simple glasses. So individuals with less than perfect vision can thrive and reproduce just as easily as someone with 20/20 vision. So that kind of reduces the evolutionary drive for our eyes to develop, say, new capabilities or maybe greater sharpness on their own. And actually, most random genetic mutations affecting vision, they tend to be disruptive, causing problems, not beneficial improvements. So, yeah, for the most part, our natural eyes aren't really pushing new boundaries through biological evolution itself.
Okay, so if our eyes aren't evolving on their own to catch more of that electromagnetic symphony, does that mean we're just limited, forever missing out on whole layers of reality? And what about those whispers I mentioned, those online theories about super lenses giving us true superhuman vision? I mean, to make something like that work, you'd need more than just like a sharper picture, right? We're talking needing a seriously advanced visual cortex, way more efficient rods and cones maybe, and some really complex brain processing just to handle all that extra information. It sounds like a total overhaul, biology and tech.
You've hit on the core challenge, exactly.
Yeah.
And also the exciting potential. And that kind of brings us neatly to understanding the infrared spectrum itself. Infrared radiation is, yeah, definitely part of the electromagnetic spectrum, just like visible light or radio waves or X-rays, but it sits just beyond the red end of what our eyes can normally perceive. Instead of seeing it as light, we often experience infrared as, well, heat.
Heat, right.
Think of it as this hidden dimension of information that's constantly surrounding us. The sources we looked at break down infrared into three main categories, each with different wavelengths and some really fascinating real-world uses. First up, there's near-infrared.NIR. These wavelengths are roughly 0.75 to 1.4 micrometers.
Yeah.
You actually interact with NIR all the time, probably without even realizing it. It's in your TV remote control
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and fiber optic cables for super fast internet,
Yeah.
and it's the basis for a lot of current night vision tech. Ever see those, eerie green-tinged images from military cameras in movies?
Standard spy movie stuff.
That's often NIR.
So it's the tech letting you sneak around in the dark, but it's still a device seeing it, not really us.
Precisely. Then there's mid-infrared, or MIR. That covers wavelengths from about 1.4 to 3 micrometers. This range is incredibly useful for industrial and environmental monitoring. It lets scientists and engineers detect specific gases in the atmosphere, maybe monitor industrial processes for tiny temperature changes, or even identify different chemicals and materials. It's about sensing things that are just too subtle for visible light.
Gotcha.
And finally, we get to far infrared, FIR. This spans from 3 to 15 micrometers. Now, this is the realm primarily used for thermal imaging. This is the kind of infrared that lets firefighters see through smoke by picking up heat signatures, or allows security cameras to spot intruders in total darkness just by their body heat.
The predator vision?
Kind of, yeah. It reveals this whole world of warmth and energy that's completely invisible to our everyday eyes. And traditionally, the scientific thinking has always been that humans are completely blind to all of these wavelengths. Our photoreceptors, our rods and cones, just aren't built to pick them up. Or so we thought.
Okay, so we're talking about this whole world beyond what we normally see. Full of hidden data, thermal stuff, invisible messages, just waiting out there. But we can't see them, naturally, unless.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Okay, let's unpack this. It's kind of mind-blowing. A study, the one I mentioned, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, completely flips that traditional understanding on its head. It reveals that humans can, in fact, perceive certain infrared light. It turns out that deep-seated belief about our vision being strictly limited, it was incomplete.
Wait, we can? Seriously, how did they even figure that out? Was this some, accident in a dark lab?
In a fascinating way, yeah, kind of. The researchers were initially working with these low-energy IR laser beams, specifically at 1,060 nanometers. And they observed something remarkable. Some of their subjects reported seeing this normally invisible light as a kind of pale greenish glow.
Green. From infrared. That sounds impossible.
Exactly. It sounds impossible, right? But this immediately got them thinking. To figure out how it was happening, they started varying the light systematically. And they found this perception was way stronger when they used pulsed laser light at 1,040 nanometers compared to just a continuous beam of the same average power. That was a critical clue. And it gets even more precise. When they used ultra-short excitation light, incredibly rapid bursts, like 200 femtoseconds short, flashing super fast at 76 megahertz.
Wow, femtoseconds. That's incredibly fast.
Unimaginably fast. And with that, the visible light sensation was consistent and strong enough that they could actually do proper color matching experiments. But what's truly astonishing, get this, all 30 healthy volunteers in the study detected this IR light. Every single one.
All 30. So it wasn't just a fluke. It's universal. A hidden human thing.
Seems like it. A universal, albeit hidden, capability.
Okay, so what did they actually see then? Was it just a blurry shimmer? Or real colors? Did everyone see the same thing?
They saw colors, yeah. And it was surprisingly specific, though it did depend on the exact wavelength of the infrared light they used. For excitation wavelengths shorter than 1,040 nanometers, the perceived color was definitely red.
Red, okay.
But for wavelengths longer than 1140 nanometers, the perceived color consistently matched roughly half of the excitation wavelength. So for example, that 1040 nanometer infrared is perceived as greenish light, which corresponds to around 520 nanometers in the visible spectrum, exactly half of 1040.
Right, half the wavelength. That's weirdly specific.
Isn't it? And they also noticed a subtle effect. If they increased the laser power, the perceived color could shift slightly towards red. A slight red shift, they called it. Which of course raises the big question, how on earth does this happen if our eyes aren't supposed to be designed for it? The study points to this really fascinating mechanism called a nonlinear optical process. Specifically, they think it's either two-photon excitation, or 2PO, or maybe second harmonic generation, SHG.
Okay, nonlinear, two-photon. Sounds complicated. Break it down.
Yeah, let's try. So normally your eye sees something when one photon, a single particle of light, hits a light-sensing molecule in your eye. And it has to have enough energy to trigger the reaction, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you need, say, 1 unit of energy to push open a door. One good push does it. It's like one visible light photon.
Got it.
But in this nonlinear process, it's different. It's like 2 weaker infrared photons, each carrying only maybe half the required energy, arrive at exactly the same spot in your eye at precisely the same instant. When they hit simultaneously like that, their energies combine. They add up to that full 1 unit of energy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Like 2 weaker pushes happening at the exact same time.
Exactly. And that combined energy is equivalent to a single photon of visible light energy. So your eye basically gets tricked into registering visible light, even though it was actually hit by infrared. And the evidence for this was pretty clear in the study. For wavelengths around 1,000 nanometers where they saw green,
The laser power needed was over 100 times less for those short pulsed beams compared to continuous ones.
100 times less. Wow.
Yeah, that huge difference strongly points towards these nonlinear, simultaneous hit processes being involved. Molecular modeling backed this up too. It showed that this two-photon absorption in the 950 to 1150 nanometer range can successfully excite rhodopsin, that's the main light-sensitive protein in our rods, and also similar opsins in our cones. And that excitation kicks off phototransduction, that whole amazing biological cascade converting light into electrical signals our brain understands.
So it actually triggers the normal vision process, just in a weird way.
Pretty much. And it wasn't just limited to our color-sensing cones either. While stimulating the fovea, the center of our vision, which gives us color, suggested cones were involved. The researchers went a step further. They tested someone with a rare condition called autosomal recessive achromatopsia.
Okay, what's that?
It means they lack functional cones, so they basically see the world in shades of gray, no color vision. And crucially, this individual also perceived the IR light at 950 and 1040 nanometers. Though, as you'd expect, their perception was monochromatic, just shades of gray.
So even the rods, our night vision cells, can do it too.
Exactly. That was a groundbreaking finding. It proved definitively that human rods can also detect infrared light through this two-photon process. Both rods and cones have this hidden capability.
Okay, mind kind of blown here. If our eyes already have this incredible hidden ability, why aren't we all walking around seeing infrared all the time? Is this some big secret, something the powers that be don't want us to know? Or is it just really inefficient under normal circumstances? Why is this superpower just lying dormant?
Well, it's definitely not suppressed in some conspiratorial sense, eh? It's more that it's an inherent ability that under normal conditions is just incredibly weak, almost impossible to trigger naturally. You see, that two-photon absorption process, it requires an extremely high density of infrared photons hitting your photoreceptors at the exact same instant.
Okay, the simultaneous hit thing.
Right. And under natural sunlight, or even normal artificial lighting, the infrared photons are just too spread out, too low in energy density, too random, and when they arrive, they just don't trigger a noticeable visual sensation. You really need that very specific, intense, pulsed laser light to make it happen reliably. Our bodies evolved to optimize for visible light, which is abundant and obviously crucial for daily survival.
So it's there but useless most of the time.
Pretty much, in terms of conscious perception.
Right.
But the discovery itself, it opens up some profound questions about human potential. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, science isn't just relying on our inherent weak biological trick. It's actively pushing the boundaries of what's visible, using revolutionary new materials.
Right, the tech side.
Exactly. This is where the world of advanced materials, especially those two-dimensional or 2D materials, becomes incredibly relevant. Imagine materials so thin, they're literally just a few atoms thick, like mind-bogglingly thin. Yet they have these extraordinary properties. Our sources highlight that infrared imaging sensor systems based on graphene, that's a single layer of carbon atoms, are now seen as a new promising application in material science. Real cutting-edge stuff.
Graphene, yeah, I've heard of that. Super strong, super thin.
That's the one. But it's not just graphene. We're seeing really exciting developments with photodetectors made from other 2D materials too, like something called indium selenide in 2s3. These materials are already demonstrating what they call a wide spectrum response, meaning they can detect light across a huge range from deep UV and 200 nanometers all the way into the near infrared at 1550 nanometers.
Wow, UV and IR.
Yep. And they show a rapid response, meaning they detect changes in light incredibly quickly. What makes them so special for potentially enhancing vision, their amazing thinness and flexibility, that made them ideal candidates for integrating into miniature devices, maybe even wearable ones, things that could vastly expand our visual spectrum.
Wearable, like contact lenses.
Potentially, yeah, or other forms. And it's not just about building flat sensors either. These 2D materials have other incredible properties. They relate to sensing beyond normal human limits or interacting with infrared in unique ways. For instance, their high near-infrared absorption, they're really good at soaking up NIR light, is being used in advanced biomedical applications. We're talking things like photothermal therapy, PTT, using NIR light to carefully heat and destroy unwanted cells, like cancer cells, without harming nearby tissue.
Targeted heat.
Exactly. Or photoacoustic imaging, PA imaging. That uses light to generate ultrasound waves, letting doctors see deeper into tissues with more clarity. And the development of flexible optoelectronic devices, like these ultra-sensitive ultrasound detectors made using flexible MOS2 FETs, that's molybdenum disulfide transistors.
Okay, fancy name.
But it shows how versatile these 2D materials are. They can expand our sensory perception in all sorts of ways, not just for light, but for other energy forms like sound waves too, creating entirely new ways to sense the world. They're really like the building blocks for creating new eyes for ourselves, whether those are external gadgets or maybe someday something far more integrated with our biology.
Okay, so hold on. If we can build devices with these amazing 2D materials that see infrared so well, and our own eyes have this secret hidden knack for seeing some infrared, what's stopping us from putting those two things together? Could those legendary infrared contact lenses that people theorize about online actually become real? Or could they be even more than just a theory, maybe merging our biology with this tech to unlock something truly revolutionary inside us? This is the big question, isn't it? If our eyes can already perceive some infrared, maybe just a little bit, and scientists are creating these materials that boost infrared detection like crazy, with amazing sensitivity and flexibility, how far away are we from achieving like true biological level infrared vision? What kind of secrets would that unlock? What would we see?
It's a really tantalizing prospect, isn't it? I mean, think about the profound implications for everyday life. Imagine the possibilities for security, being able to perceive heat signatures, hidden movements in total darkness without bulky night vision goggles.
Yeah, no hiding in the shadows anymore.
Or consider advances in medical diagnostics. Doctors might be able to spot subtle thermal patterns on your body that indicate disease early on, long before anything else shows up.
Wow, like a body heat scan just by looking.
Potentially. Or even simpler things. Imagine navigating a dark room without bumping into furniture, because you can see the warmth of the walls and objects.
Okay, that part I could definitely use. No more stub toes. But seriously, no more secrets hidden in plain sight, right? If we could truly see thermal signatures, or maybe hidden messages only visible in IR light, would this be the ultimate superpower? Or would it just be another layer of overwhelming information? I mean, my brain already struggles sometimes just processing normal vision.
It's a fair point. The brain's capacity to process entirely new sensory input is definitely a critical factor. That's a whole other challenge. But what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that the superhuman abilities we often dream about, they might not be so far-fetched after all. Or maybe they even exist, just subtly within us already, waiting for the right stimulus, or perhaps the right technological nudge. This fusion, understanding our own complex biology, combined with these incredible advances in material science, it could lead to truly transformative, maybe even paradigm-shifting, ways of perceiving the world around us. It fundamentally changes our understanding of what's possible when we combine what nature gave us with what human ingenuity can create. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, it means that the line between what's cool, what seems genuinely weird, and what is truly possible, it's constantly shifting. It's blurring right before our eyes, you could say. The world around us is far more complex, way more vibrant, and filled with much more hidden information than our basic senses currently let on. It's a pretty exciting time to be curious about it all.
Yeah, definitely. We hope this deep dive into the strange and wonderful world of human infrared perception has given you some new aha moments and maybe a few new questions to ponder about your own hidden capacities and the future of human senses. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoyed exploring the cool, weird, and possible with us, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you'll catch all our future deep dives. We'll be back soon with more unexpected revelations.